When it comes to race day, you want to make sure that you have the best shoe on your feet to take advantage of all those weeks and months of hard training. But which carbon-plated racer should you choose? These are my top 5 race day shoes for 2022. Yo, what's going on everybody? My name is Kofuzi and today I'm going to talk about my favorite carbon-plated racers of 2022. I've done a lot of racing this year and a lot of running, and I've got a lot of thoughts on these shoes. I can't wait to tell you about them, but first, I do want to go over some disclosures. Some of these shoes were sent to me for the purpose of review, and some of them I bought myself. I'll put more detail in the description down below as to which specific shoes got to me in which specific ways. But regardless of how a shoe gets to me, I do want to let you know that no one has paid me to make this video or to include their shoe in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the top 5 carbon-plated racers of 2022. First, let's start off with number 1 for me, and I'll go from 1 to number 5. I know that's backwards, but that's just the way I like to do it. My favorite carbon-plated shoe for 2022 is the Metaspeed Sky Plus. This is a shoe that I enjoyed last year's version, 2021. It was my favorite carbon-plated racer of last year, and for 2022, they have increased it. There's even more of that FF Turbo, that premier racing foam from Asics in the forefoot, and they changed the geometry so like the toe spring where it curls off at the end happens a little bit later, meaning for someone who's a forefoot striker or a midfoot / forefoot striker like I am, there's just more of a landing pad for me to land on. Also, it's gotten a little bit wider as well. The upper still is kind of like good, but not great. It's kind of a scratchier material that isn't always the softest and has a tendency to crunch that pinky toe a little bit. But overall, the fit is snug and a racer fit. And the shoe is one of those shoes that has a really quick compression, decompression, and really nice feedback every time your foot hits the ground, letting you know when you're running pretty and when you're running not so pretty. So because of all those things, it really suits me well in what I'm looking for from a race day shoe when I'm trying to hit those fastest times in my marathons and half marathons. And for that reason, that's why I've picked the Asics Metaspeed Sky Plus as my carbon-plated shoe of the year. All right, let's move down to number 2. And this is a pretty close number 2 right behind it. And that's gonna be the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. For the first 2 years, Saucony, I feel like, has really struggled with this shoe. Versions 1 and 2, which I think were pretty much identical, were really great, exciting shoes, great uses of the Power Run PB foam that they have here, this beaded pellet foam. But I always felt like it was a bit too firm for me to actually use for the marathon distance, so I never actually ran a marathon race in them. I did a lot of half marathon racing. I did a lot of marathon workouts where I was doing marathon paces, threshold paces, but never the actual 26.2. That changed for this year because I feel like they've put a little bit more foam up in that forefoot, and they've softened this overall just a little bit to give it what I need out of a shoe, which is that combination of a little bit of squish, a really quick response, and a nice stiff carbon plate feeling, so that way I can really feel when I'm loading the carbon properly and I get that pop with every step. This shoe really can deliver on all 3 of those things. And I do really appreciate this little cutout in the forefoot. It's something that's missing in the other shoes from Saucony this year that sometimes do give me a little bit of pain in the forefoot. This one doesn't give me that pain, and I think it's because of this cutout right here. I don't know how that works. Maybe someone that has a material science background or some sort of physics background can explain that to me. But this cutout, I think, is what really makes a huge difference for me. And I'm glad it's here. And I don't think it's just some sort of like window where you could see the carbon inside, because that's what this is right here. So I really like what they've done. Very thoughtful in the way they designed it and tweaked it slightly to get a really big an improved effect. Also, I absolutely love the upper. I'm a huge fan of Saucony uppers. They do such a fantastic job with fit, and look at the way this finishes. I love the way that it sparkles when the light hits it just right, and it's really comfortable to wear while still maintaining that racer fit. So it's a shoe that I've really been enjoying doing workouts, and I even raced the Chicago Marathon in this year, and I had such a good time with it. That's why this year, the Endorphin Pro 3 finally becomes a marathon shoe, and it takes my #2 spot for top carbon plated shoes of 2022. All right, let's move to #3, and this is the only shoe that I actually haven't raced in this year, and that's because I'm saving it for next year's Boston. This is the Adidas Adios Pro 3. I've been loving versions 1 and 2 of the shoe, and #3 is a nice little tweak and update. I feel like, again, like most of the shoes that I'm liking this year, I feel like the main difference is I'm getting a little bit more cushion, a little bit more foam right in that forefoot. So while overall stack height's remaining the same, I think the way a lot of the brands are doing that is by tweaking the way that these shoes curl up at the end. And I think they've done that in this shoe as well, just a little bit. And it gives me just that little bit more cushion and a nice big round landing pad for me to land on, combined with the carbon energy rods in this shoe. They're not carbon fiber plate, but instead they're these rods, 5 metatarsal rods, and a heel plate in the back. I think it all works really well. It continues to work really well from what they've done in versions 1 and 2. And it's in the #3 spot, not necessarily because I feel like it's slumped behind what versions 1 and 2 could do. It's just I haven't had a chance to race in this one yet. So it's kind of a victim of the fact that I'm finally going to Boston for 2023, and I'm kind of saving this shoe for that build up for next spring. So I haven't logged as many miles as this shoe has deserved, but it's still definitely good enough that I know it deserves to be on this list. All right, let's move to shoe #4 in my top 5, and this is the SC Elite version 3. It's the first SC Elite, although there was RC Elite 1 and RC Elite 2. Now they're going to SC, and it's still version 3 because I guess it's the third racing shoe that they've made for the marathon. And this year, I feel like they've fixed everything that's gone wrong with RC Elite 2. Not that it was a bad shoe. I raced a marathon in that shoe last year around this time, and I did really enjoy it. But in RC Elite version 2, what I felt like I was missing was not enough foam in the forefoot, and so I felt like it was kind of bottoming out. Also, I felt like the carbon just wasn't kind of assertive enough, so I really wanted to feel the carbon working a little bit more, and I wanted just a little bit more of a landing pad. And those are the two things that have changed for this year in the SC Elite version 3. Plus, they have a beautiful knit upper, and I absolutely love knit uppers. The only one downside with knit uppers is when you do get really sweaty, like I did when I ran the New York City Marathon in this shoe, the moisture all does tend to collect and stay in the knit a little bit longer than I'd like, but overall, it's still a fantastic shoe, really comfortable, didn't crunch the toes at all, and really enjoyed the fit. Plus, they've corrected all the things that I felt like were missing in the RC Elite 2 and really knocked it out of the park for the SC Elite 3. That's why it's on this list of my top 5 carbon-plated shoes of 2022. All right, last but not least, it's a little bit different than what you might expect because it's a carbon-plated shoe. Actually, you know what? I don't think it's even carbon, but it does have a plate-like element, and it's not a marathon shoe at all. It is the Takumi Sen 8. Now, this shoe is a 5K, 10K racer shoe, and I did use it for a 5K last September, finally breaking the 19-minute barrier in this shoe. This is a shoe that is super lightweight. It's got that Light Strike Pro, just like in the Adios Pro 3, and it has these rods, although I don't think that they're carbon in the Takumi Sen. I think that they're some sort of a composite type of material, but they still serve a similar function. But overall, I feel like what I'm getting a lot in this shoe is that light strike, and it's a nice thin layer, so it feels very responsive, very connected to the road. I don't think that I would want to be that connected for a full 26.2, but for a 5K, 10K, this shoe is one of the best shoes that I think that you can buy on the market right now. And it also has been really good for even longer marathon workouts. So even if it's lots of miles at marathon pace or lots of miles at threshold pace, I love taking this shoe out for threshold mile repeats. This shoe can handle those longer workouts. It's just like the full 26.2, I feel like there's not enough foam in this to do that, especially when the Adios Pro 3 exists and it does have all the foam that I want. So it's a very specific shoe, a 5K, 10K shoe. I don't really test a lot of these every year. And even when I do, I don't usually fall in love with them, but I've absolutely fallen in love with this shoe. It just has a weird spot in my rotation because I normally run distances that are a little bit longer than the 5K, 10K races. But it's so good, it definitely deserved a spot on this top 5 carbon-plated racers, even though that was not carbon, racers of 2022. So that's my top 5. Let me know in the comments what your top 5 racers are. I'd love to hear more from you guys, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday right here on YouTube. I'd love to talk to you guys in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?